Today, we're going to see the Enneagram come to life on the screen through watching a clip from the HBO series Succession. And you don't need to be familiar with the show to really get anything out of this. I wasn't familiar with the show myself. This was something that my girlfriend had been watching, and she kept saying, like, there's some really good Enneagram examples in this. I think you'd like it, but as much as that would seem appealing, I don't watch much TV, so it was actually kind of a hard sell on me. But eventually she's like, this funeral scene, you gotta see it. And I'm like, fine, let's do a live reaction video. So anyway, here's Laura. She's gonna give just the bare minimum background about the show Succession, and then we'll get into watching the funeral scene.
Logan Roy is the owner of a very successful business empire, and he is basically a billionaire. And he's getting old. And he's aging, and it's almost time for him to retire. So he's trying to find his successor. So he has 4 children, and they're all kind of fighting for the position. Other people in the company are fighting for the position. In the scene that we're going to watch is actually, the spoiler part is where he actually passes on, and it's the funeral scene. And in that part, there are people who want to give a speech. So the siblings are preparing what they'd want to say. And unexpectedly, Logan's brother, Ewan, decides to just say his piece.
The unexpected speech. Okay, nice.
Yeah. So he goes up and, without permission, just starts speaking about Logan. And the siblings aren't very happy about that, as you can imagine. And the part we're going to watch is how he speaks about this type 8 character.
Yes, yeah.
And he really focuses, in my opinion, on the shadow sides.
Okay.
And then the siblings get a chance to speak. They're like, we can't leave it this way.
Yeah.
And the siblings come up, and then they painted just a little bit different picture about what a type 8 character could look like if you look at all the facets and not just the negative parts of it.
Nice. All right. That's a great intro. Let's get into it.
That sounds good.
All right.
Into your hands, Father of mercies, we commend our brother Logan in the sure and certain hope that together with all who have died in Christ, he will rise with him on the last day. Please be seated for a word from those who knew and loved Logan best.
Greg. Hey, Greg. Hey, Greg. What are you doing, Grandpa? What? Don't do it. You're making a scene.
I'm not making a scene, Greg. You are.
Hi, I think maybe you're not on for today?
Thank you. I'm going to speak.
Gramps, can
The fuck, Greg?
what do you want me to do? I'm gonna take his legs out.
Thanks.
Good morning.
It's okay, just sit down.
Shut up.
It's not your fault. Just shut up.
What sort of people would stop a brother speaking for the sake of a share price? It is not for me to judge my brother. History will tell that story. I can just give you a couple of instances about him. You probably all know we came across the first time during the war for our safety. But the engines of our ship let go, and the rest of the convoy sailed on without us, leaving us adrift. They told us children that if we spoke or coughed or moved an inch, that the U-boats would catch the vibrations through the hull and we would die in the drink right there in the hold. 3 nights and 2 days, we stayed quiet. A 4-year-old and a 5.5-year-old speaking with our eyes. So, there's a little sob story. And once we were over, our uncle, who was, so to speak, a character, they had a little money, and they sent Logan away to a better school. And he hated it. He just hated it. He wasn't well, he was sick. And he mewed and he cried, and in the end, he got out and came home under his own steam. But when he got back, our little sister, she was a baby, but she was there by then. He always believed that he brought home the polio with him, which took her. I don't even know if that's true. But our aunt and uncle certainly did nothing to disabuse him of that notion. They let it lie with him. I loved him, I suppose. And I suppose some of you did too, in whatever way he would let us and we could manage.
Okay, you got something to say?
Yeah, so you can kind of get a little bit of the backstory. And this is the first time in the show that we've actually heard like a real concrete description of his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is towards the end of the season. So we've seen all of Logan's behaviors. We've seen all of this 8 archetype coming out. But we don't really know his pain points.
Yeah.
And this part is like, you really like get this feel like, oh, we know his pain point. We know like this rich history of challenges that he went through. So it
just
helps understand
exposed
that.
to like danger and threats at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
So then probably the desire to, be strong and powerful because there's a very real sense that life is dangerous.
And then also a real sense of guilt for his sister, which it kind of adds some more complicated emotions to that.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because that kind of guilt is not necessarily something often associated with 8. So that made me wonder some things to the extent, he said that the uncles who were raising them, or I believe uncle and aunt, if that's right, not super important detail, but didn't disabuse him of the notion. So I don't know if it's implied there or not, that they just contributed to the guilt, or who knows if there was abuse or not, like on a physical level.
There was at least some sort of
In the
emotional
story.
abuse with the parental figures, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
I think that's good.
All right.
But I can't help but say, he has wrought the most terrible things. He was a man who has, here and there, drawn in the edges of the world, now and then darkened the skies a little, closed men's hearts, fed that dark flame in men, the hard, mean, hard-relenting flame that keeps their hearths warm while another grows cold, their grain stashed while another goes hungry, and even has the temerity to tell that hard, funny, yes, funny, but hard joke about the man in the cold. You can get a little high, a little mighty when you're warm.
All right, so yeah, up to this point, I was like, well, speech seems pretty fair at this point. Like nothing too, but okay, we I guess we knew this was coming. So it's definitely that 8 thing where there's, yes, accumulation of resources for power and not aware of a broader social impact or something, or not concerned with it. Do you have any, how much have we seen this brother? And I'm trying to figure out whether he maybe is more 6ish or 1ish at this point. I'm not sure. But do you have any feelings on that?
Well, prior, to this scene, the two of them just butted heads.
Yeah.
And I'd say on some level, if I had to sort of put him into a category, I'd say probably a 1.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense because the 1 has like this very strong moral concern that is off put by the 8's kind of like flagrant use of power and not concerned for a larger kind of impact and morality. So I think that would make sense for the context of this speech.
Another thing he said too was, I'm not here to judge my brother. But
yeah.
he is.
Yeah, good point. Good.
He starts it off making it sound like he isn't, but then he just kind of goes in for the low blow here.
Good call out there.
Oh, yes, he gave away a few million of his billions, but he was not a generous man. He was mean, and he made but a mean estimation of the world. And he fed a certain kind of meagerness in men. Perhaps he had to, because he had a meagerness about him. And maybe I do about me too. I don't know. I try.
I think I just as a slight side tangent, like 8 is connected to 5, and 5 can be associated with stinge and hoarding resources. So the degree to that this super wealthy, super accumulated resources guy is still stingy, we can maybe say that that's the influence of 8's connection to 5 a little bit for that.
I can see that.
I don't know when, but sometime he decided not to try anymore. And it was a terrible shame. Godspeed, my brother. And God bless.
Something interesting he said at the end there was, he said, I tried. So perhaps he maybe sees some of the 8 in himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, but I tried. I tried to live the moral life, but he just quit. And so what of that? How do you just submit to the 8? How do you forget the 1? I think so he was frustrated that he couldn't see that.
That's a great call out. I was not entirely sure what he was getting at that, but I think that's spot on because they both had that same formative childhood experience, but they seemingly did different things with it, which maybe as another tangent, I'll just go on a little soapbox for a while that there's a bit of Enneagram theory going around that says your childhood determines your Enneagram type. I don't buy that. I think that this would totally be a rant, but we'll just say briefly that whether you want to say genetics or karma, I think that the Enneagram type is something determined far beyond or far before the the 4 or 5 year old or the conscious experiences like children have. So anyway.
Yeah, I would agree. Like perhaps his karma was set before him and they each had a different list of karmic pieces to go through.
For sure.
And to judge someone else's karma and compare is a challenging position to be in.
Right on. All right.
Yeah. You okay? You're gonna say the other side. Yeah. That's not it. That's not everything, right?
Yeah, I'm good. I might hit on Marsha on the way up.
So this is
You got this.
the youngest son, Roman.
Okay.
You okay, son?
And there's 4 siblings.
Yeah, I pre-grieved. Not your son.
How many of the siblings are going to speak?
It's a good hard take
Well-
that you gave.
Technically 3 go up there.
And we won't give it away yet because maybe I'll try and guess, but do you have inclinations of the Enneagram types of the siblings?
A little bit, yeah. I kind of thought about it, but I don't know if I'm if I had enough time to process it all. But I would say this guy I think might be a 6.
Okay.
and then that's Roman. And
that would make sense because if we go on the idea that the 1 is going to judge harshly for the moral failings of the 8, but 6s often have very like a family loyalty because they're all about security and support. So it would make sense. See, I haven't even watched this, but it would make sense that the 6 would maybe want to defend the degree of support and role modeling, even if imperfect, that the 8 father modeled. So we'll see if that's what the speech is like.
yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good analysis there already.
Hi.
Okay, yeah, and even just like in demeanor, like he has this, like you can just tell, like there's like kind of an anxiety and a nervousness, and maybe so even like the vibe. Brett and I were talking about the vibes the other day, and just I'm feeling nervous head type just from some of the body language that we're seeing here.
Yep.
One second. My father, Logan Roy, he was a great man in the true sense of the word. Just give me yeah, no, so I can't do the thing. I actually can't do that anymore. I can't. I tried to sing it. I just can't.
It's okay, just take a breath.
And that's the mother.
It's okay. Just take it.
Is he in there?
Yeah.
Can we get him out?
Hey, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Hey, just take a breath.
It's okay. You're okay. We got you.
Yeah, I mean, to just even go off of what I said before, like I have a 6th friend, we both know him, who lost a parent, and losing a parent is hard for everybody. But I do think that for 6s in particular, because of that support, guidance, core motivation, oftentimes losing a parent is particularly difficult.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a bit of that here, probably.
Yeah, I think like the 6, don't they tend to really like look towards like a leader of sorts?
Yes.
And so, Roman's father, Logan, was like the leader.
For sure, yes.
And he did throughout the seasons like try to walk that balance between becoming independent himself, but yet not wanting to like upset his father.
Yeah.
And you can see how much he like leaned into his dad because he just couldn't, he's just like crumbles because his dad's gone and he can't just wrap around what that even looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We gotta say the other side. It's not. Yeah, I got him. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, Steven, sorry.
You guys have a pen?
No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
I got you.
You did. You got.
I got you.
Okay. Thank you.
Just bear with me a second, please.
All right, so we got the next brother coming up here.
Yes, the
All right,
next.
don't give away the type because I want to see if I can
Okay.
guess. But do you have a
This
type?
would be fun.
Do you have a type in mind?
This one I'm not 100% like I didn't like to process it out exactly.
Okay.
I've got a couple theories. I won't say them.
Good. All right.
This guy, his name is Kendall.
Okay.
And so he is, just to give some, out of the 4 children, he is the second oldest, but for some reason, his older brother doesn't really take the lead, like biggest brother role. So
Okay.
he kind of takes over big brother
He's
role
the
of the whole
unofficial
family.
big brother. Okay.
Yeah, and he kind of like owns that. He's like, well, I'm the next in line.
Mhm.
And they're like, the other brother's like, well, I'm actually technically the one.
Okay.
So there's
All
some
right.
tension there.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. All right.
I'm going to try to just stand in for my brother.
You just need water or something. Ewan, you can you get some fucking water?
I have some of his words, my sisters and my brothers, but yeah, I don't know how much I know, but I knew my father. You know, I've said it. I said it. And it is true what I said, what my uncle said. Yeah, my father was a brute. He was tough. But also, he built and he acted.
Maybe 5. Like like acknowledging, not going to downplay one aspect, but that kind of, let's see it from both perspectives. Like, I mean, that's kind of what the Enneagram is. Like, we can acknowledge like the shadow sides of the 8 or other, and that's what the 1 might point out. But like, let's see, not only the vices, but let's also see the virtues. Let's paint a fair picture here. So that's kind of all right.
And there are many people out there who will always tell you no. And there are 1,000 reasons. There always are 1,000 reasons not to not act. But he was never one of those. He had he had a vitality, a force.
Oh yeah, this is like 8 description. Like, just watch. Okay, he's doing awesome. All right.
That could hurt. And it did. But my God, the sheer, look at it, the lives and the livings and the things that he made. And the money. Yeah, the money. The lifeblood, the oxygen of this wonderful civilization that we have built from the mud. The money, the corpuscles of life gushing around this nation, this world, filling men and women all around with desire, quickening the ambition to own and make and trade and profit and build and improve. Great.
Okay, so I made a joke about him early on, but the camera keeps patting back to him. So who is, I think his name was a vampire Eric from True Blood, but what is he in this show?
So he is a Swedish technology company.
Okay.
And he wants to, in previous episodes, he wants to buy out or merge or do some.
Okay, so he's here for condolences, but maybe also business.
It's definitely a business move for him to be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Great geysers of life he willed. Of buildings he made stand. Of ships, steel hulls, amusements, newspapers, shows, and films, and life. Bloody, complicated life. He made life happen. He made me and my 3 siblings. Sorry. And yes, he had a terrible force to him and a fierce ambition that could push you to the side. But it was only that human thing. The will to be and to be seen and to do. And now people might want to tend and prune the memory of him, to denigrate that force, that magnificent, awful force of him, but my God, I hope it's in me.
Yeah, and the 5 thing, it's like the 5 has to like also integrate to 8 and not just have their perspective, but like get that vitality and get going in life. I mean, I said this a little bit, but this is just like, a lot of people have a difficulty with 8. This is what I kind of love about the Enneagram, because a lot of spiritual teachings maybe don't have room for 8, or it doesn't sound like they have room for 8, or we get that perspective they don't, although maybe if you dig into them a little deeper, you can find it. But, the Enneagram forces people to reconcile with like, this is an energy, and it is off-putting to a lot of people, but it certainly are positive and benefits to hear. And this is just a great speech, really outline. This is an awesome reference that you're contributing. I think it's really cool to frame this as for people who struggle with that 8 energy and fail to see the kind of benefits of it. This is a really good reference for that.
Great.
Because if we can't match his vim, then God knows the future will be sluggish and gray. Now, there wasn't a room from the grandest stateroom where his advice was sought to the lowest house where his news played, where he couldn't walk and wasn't comfortable. He was comfortable with this world, and he knew it. He knew it, and he liked it. And I say amen to that.
All right.
So I just want to comment on your like analysis of him being a 5.
Yeah, because you had your thoughts about that.
So I was either like he's a 5 with a wing 4, which is like a new topic, or he is I was thinking he was an 8 wing 7 who just didn't fully develop his 8-ness. But I do think in this part, like hearing you say it kind of then pulls me into the 5 energy, especially with the observer, seeing both pieces of it. And one thing that you haven't seen is in previous episodes, he struggles with drug addiction. So, and that can tend to be a wing 4 type characteristic.
Yeah, there's a lot of
there.
Yeah, the 7 or even 8s because of their great vitality and their directedness. If something gets in the way of that, then they're often left with a lot of like, what do I do with all this rage? That vitality, if there's some type of block in it, can get so. Yeah, it's difficult. There's a lot of types that could
fall into that category.
Get addiction for different reasons, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's not super critical to figure out his type. But yeah, whether he's a 7 wing 8 or an 8 trying to match his father's vitality or the 5. But the speech feels 5-ish to me. So
I just wanted to bring up
that's good.
The opposing.
Hey,
what was going on in my head?
You have the context of the show. I only have this episode, so
you're quick at identifying, so that's cool.
All right.
That's great. There's the bit of the office.
Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry. That's okay. That was good.
So the next person going up is Siobhan. And she's the daughter of the 4, and then there's 3 boys, and Siobhan's the only girl.
Okay.
And so we're going to hear from her perspective about,
All
the
right.
father figure.
She's going to be a hard type. She's going to be a 2.
Ooh. I have my ideas about her, but
Okay.
we'll
Or maybe
see
a
what
3.
you think.
Maybe a 3. A 2 or a 3.
The way things have gone today, we haven't had a chance to, and it's okay, Rome, and thank you, Ken. That was, yeah, but we haven't said everything, and so I'm just gonna, we'll be done soon. Sorry. My father. We used to play outside his office, and I think because we wanted him to hear, and he would come out, and he was so terrifying. Oh God, he was so terrifying to us. He'd come out and he'd yell at us to be quiet, and this silence. What he was doing in there was so important. We couldn't conceive of what it was. Presidents and kings and queens and diplomats and prime ministers and world bankers. And I don't know, yeah, he kept us outside, but he kept everyone outside. When he let you in, when the sun shone, it was warm. Yeah, it was warm in the light.
Okay, so I mentioned the heart type, but for, basic Enneagram facts here, 8 is also, we talked about the 8 connection to 5, but then the other 8 connection is 2. So we have this, take force aggressiveness, and then we have a more detached emotional state. But then there is that opportunity to get that when he lets you in. Maybe it's a rare thing, maybe it's not a common thing, but there is that tender, protective caretaker. I'm doing this, and maybe not always aware of it in the 8, but I'm doing this because not everyone is willing to step up to the plate and do what needs to be done, but I am. So anyway, maybe that's what this speech is getting at. Okay.
But it was hard to be his daughter. I can't not. He was hard on women.
Yeah. Yeah, the hard on women, we won't say too much more about this, but 8s kind of are the brute kind of masculine vibe. They tend to have their quarrels with the feminine, Andrew Tate being a recent example. So
he couldn't fit a whole woman in his head. But he did okay. You did okay, Dad. We're all here, and we're doing okay. We're doing okay. So, goodbye, my dear, dear world of a father.
Okay, so yeah, I don't have any strong feelings about. Certainly, she spoke to the heart type aspect of 2 that maybe not a lot of people saw, but she saw as her daughter. I don't know if you want to share any thoughts Enneagram wise on her or not.
Yeah, just from watching the TV show throughout, I tend to see her more as a 3.
Okay.
With a 2 wing.
Yeah.
She stayed out of the business for the most part and just came in more towards the end. And she definitely showed more heart space in the whole thing. But she also really liked the public space and marketing type things, like that kind of thing.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I would see her. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, awesome. Thanks for sharing that clip. I think definitely we saw, we'll say, the one just focusing on the moral shortcomings on the 8 and all the kind of brute forces or ethical lapses that were involved in building the kingdom, so to speak. We saw the 6 just being devastated and not being able to talk because this source of security and support has just been, swept away. And where do you even begin now to move forward in life without that? We saw maybe the 5, maybe not the 5, but a very 5-ish speech give a very balanced take on 8-ness in general and what the terrain and the territory looks like, the good, the bad, the vices, the virtues. And then we saw the daughter open up about the heart space, but that maybe not everyone got to see, but that was still there underneath it all, although different types, different lenses may not be able to appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's a good explanation of it. And, I think one of the feelings I was left with when you see Siobhan walking back is just this idea that they're realizing the 8 Enneagram, the protector type is now gone. And I think there's some fear that because he was there and they maybe took that 8 energy for granted and now it's gone. And what replaces that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You're scared of it for a little bit, but then when it's gone, you realize maybe all of the good things and the things that it took care of that now you have to worry about.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Anything else you want to say about the episode or the show, or does that feel complete?
I think that feels complete. I could talk about the show for hours. So
sure. Well, we'll contain it, and maybe we haven't given too much of a spoiler because I guess people could probably guess that with the show of him trying to find a successor, he was probably going to die at some point throughout the show to really kick the gears into drama, and we still don't know. We
don't know
who's going to be the successor. So,
and we won't give that away here. So.
All right. Well, then this is a good place to end it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right. I had a lot of fun watching this video, and I think it was a really good Enneagram example. So I hope you got something out of it. And if you did, please consider liking, subscribing. I'm just getting started here with the channel, so anything you can do to support it is much appreciated. And I think that my favorite thing that really came out of this video, well, there's a couple, but one of the things I really liked is going into it, I kind of expected it to be, this good example of a type 8 character. And definitely from the descriptions that we got of the funeral speeches, that's fair. I think we got a very good picture of a type 8 from that. But normally you get an idea of type 8 right through one author trying to give as best as possible a non-biased perspective. And this was a totally different approach, right? We got several types giving highly biased perspectives that when we piece them together actually ends up getting a pretty good overview of type 8, both in terms of strengths and weaknesses. But what we also got in this, which is what you don't get when you just get one person trying to give a non-biased perspective, is it really was also telling about certain types and their relationships and their experiences and their opinions and perspectives of type 8. So we got to see a glimpse at least of what a relationship dynamic might look like between 1 and 8 and 6 and 8 and 5 and 8 and 3 and 8, both in terms of areas of conflict, but also in terms of maybe areas of cooperation or appreciation. And ultimately, I think the big takeaway here is that each type's speech about Logan Roy said something about him, said something about the 8s, but it also really revealed a lot about the person making the speech. And the thing about that I think is really worth considering is the degree to which our judgments of others, as well as our praises, aren't just these objective truths. They are also reflections back on our own beliefs and values. Now, I'm curious though, as well, for those of you who have more of a background with Succession. Again, this was just a live reaction video for me, but do you agree with some of the typings, or based on other scenes, other context, a deeper experience with the characters, do you have a case for a different type? I'd love to know if you have any thoughts on that. In terms of editing this video and going back and watching it again, everything we said feels pretty right in terms of the types, but there's one point that I want to elaborate on a little bit more, and that's in regards to Kendall. And the strongest point towards him being a 5 for me really wasn't the way that he was able to present Logan in terms of both the good and the character faults of him, but more so it was the admiration that Kendall had for Logan, particularly the 8 characteristics that 5s need to learn to integrate to. The vitality, the willfulness, the ability to go out and initiate and get things done. And for him, it didn't seem like an intellectual exercise, you know, oh, look, my dad had some good qualities and some bad, or a PR campaign. It really seemed to come from a deep personal place in him, a place of,
My God, I hope it's in me.
Furthermore, the core fear of 5 boils down to this sense of being overwhelmed. Thus, there's this tendency to kind of step back and gain knowledge or competence before really feeling comfortable in the world. And Kendall really started his speech in a very 5 manner.
Yeah, I don't know how much I know, but I knew my father.
But he ended it with admiration for his father's 8ness that kind of stands in a stark contrast to the 5's fear of being overwhelmed by the world.
He was comfortable with this world, and he knew it. He knew it, and he liked it. And I say amen to that.
All right, thanks for watching. This was kind of fun for me. I have some rather, serious, deep videos on the Enneagram coming up, but it was really fun to do this kind of analysis. So if you have any other scenes or characters or shows that you think lend themselves well to the Enneagram, let me know, and hopefully we'll see you on another video.